Hey guys, welcome to Contest Prep University. I'm Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson, and we're going to do another update on the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's important, Adam, as you and I were talking off camera of all the topics that we've already covered, some things that we could shed a little light on. I just don't think normal stuff matters right now. I think everybody's in the same situation where we're dealing with contest delays and you know, you and I have already covered probably 2 or 3 different series worth of information on, you know, if you've been ready for a show here and you get delayed, then do this. You know, all of that stuff is in the past, the recent past for us. But a lot of people still are dealing with, you know, how long will this last? The initial show cancellations, the NPC, you know, until May 10th. And some organizations have now extended that into June. I believe one organization may have even said, you know, I think the first week of July. So we'll cover some of those nuanced answers. But you know, you mentioned something about just safety. A lot of people still are a little bit behind on the information or believing it, the credibility factor. And I think this week, as every week has been another significant ratcheting up of people coming on board saying, okay, this is pretty serious. And we know with new modeling out just this week, that probably a minimum of 100,000 Americans are going to die. And of course, the vast majority are still the people who have weaker immune systems, the elderly and so forth, but they are seeing, you know, people in their 20s and 30s die. We have had, a teenager and an infant die now. So the wrong strain at the wrong time with the wrong person is going to be an issue for anybody. So I guess, Adam, let's start just by talking about some of the personal gym safety things, because there are still states and gyms without any restrictions. It's rare. I think 80 to 85% of our country is now under some kind of a stay-at-home order, but an awful lot of those are still not enforced. So I know you've done a really good job of trying to stay under the radar, and you're not out there, you know, just wantonly spreading this, but you've got a nice little see you later leaner compound that you can kind of bunker down in.
Yeah, so we've kept that closed. I mean, we obviously could open it because it's a private gym, but I would just feel responsible. One transmission, every germ that you touch is someone else's germs, which is someone else's germs. And you just can't be that sure about who has this and who doesn't. We know there's definitely a delayed effect of symptoms, which I think is one of the most, interesting things about it. People can not even know they have it and have it. And, you know, if I even let one person down there and they have it, they could then go infect somebody who could die from this. So it's not so much I'm worried about my fitness population dying. I'm more so worried who, if they go see grandma or they go see somebody who does go see grandma and they get it and die, you know, I'm essentially kind of responsible for that. And so I've just kind of kept things closed down just because of that.
And that is the real factor. I mean, that's how the current models show between 100 and 200,000 deaths in our country, when the CDC said it could have been easily above 2 million. And so social distancing works, being careful works, washing your hands works. Every single person that could transmit this, if they just didn't, if they were that person who stayed home, who listened, it could save infinite amounts of people. And as you just mentioned, one of the largest religious universities in our country, demanded their students come back from spring break. You paid for this college education, you're going to get it, you must be here. So I think up to 20,000 people at Liberty University, and parents and board members were saying, this is crazy, why are you doing this? But the president said, you have to. So of course there's a huge outbreak, a bunch of kids get it, and then they decide, oh gosh, I guess Jesus didn't save us from this. And so now all those kids are going home, like you said, to their parents, their grandparents, and people could potentially die from this. And that's why, gosh, man, as much as nobody likes this, me above all, I travel. I go somewhere probably every weekend, and I'm missing all of that work. I'm missing all that training for our coaches and, working with clients, and it's devastating to everybody. But what is the value of 2 million lives versus, I mean, gosh, it's kind of sad that we're going to get over 100,000 when it could have been even less than that if people had taken this seriously. So I'm very happy that you're on board as well, at least trying to make this as minimal a cost for everybody as possible, Adam.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just bypassing it as an old people virus. And like, yeah, technically, statistically, I think it's still the majority rules that it is to some degree. There have been cases where younger have died and they have had underlying issues, but we're all going to get old. So if I'm 90 and this is going around, I would hope to God people are staying home for my sake, you know? So you just have to think we're all going to get old. So please kind of do your due diligence. So when you're old and we're going through the same thing, you know, maybe 30, 40 years down the road, that people listen and they do take these things seriously.
In the high transmission rate, even when we are out of these restrictions, we're going to immediately go to the gym. I mean, everybody's going to be in gyms. And, you know, I think they have said that gym equipment actually has more microbes, pathogens, et cetera, than even toilet seats. I mean, think of all the people who wipe their ass and then they go grab some dumbbells that you then grab, or they're sweating, dripping sweat, coughing on it. I mean, I sure hope this changes a lot of people's behavior in the gym. That you're going to see, you know, a big thing of hand sanitizer in gym bags right next to their pre-workout. But I think we all just need to be careful about some of these things in the future, because this will not be the last pathogen we have to deal with. But for right now, our country is so large geographically that these hot spots you see in New York and on the West Coast, they're just going to keep migrating to other cities and population centers into the middle of the country. And so I think some of these restrictions will not only be with us for a while, but they're going to roll from area to area. And so let's get into some of these contest dates, Adam, because I had some initial predictions, and I think for some people those will stand, but a lot of things are still up in the air. So are you ready to scrap summer shows and just focus on the fall, or are you still getting people ready with one eye open on July?
Yeah, we're looking more at July for a lot of my clients right now. We did see that New York Pro got canceled, which is in July, and that really, like, I would say my clients have been very flexible. They saw that. It was a big punch to the gut to them, because that's the first July show we've seen go down. And I probably had about 30 messages about just that show. They're like, this was canceled in July. Well, I said, statistically, look where that show is being held, New York City. It's the leading, it's the leading state right now in transmission. So, you know, that's going to be the last one to recover. So I think a lot of this is going to be, you know, starting at the nation, of course, but then once things do open up, I think it's going to be a state by state basis.
Right. And that's where everybody has to kind of keep their eyes open. And there will absolutely, in the spirit of the American West, so to speak, there will be a lot of shows that still happen, because they're going to say, look, there are no direct state mandates and we've just got to get back to normal. I really do believe there will be some contests that are still happening, maybe as early as, you know, mid to late June, probably some in July. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that beyond that, from you know, August and forward, I really just don't see disruption continuing. I don't think the American people have the stomach, nor does our government, to say, okay, the president said obey the current guidelines through April, but and that will have been about 6 weeks at that point federally, and some states have been going for weeks before that. You know, could we extend that all the way through May, all the way through June? I just don't think anybody's going to let that happen because of the economy. And that means, of course, more transmission, more lives lost, but at least it will be on the backside of that curve. And as bad as I could morally make an argument for, you know, that being a a dumb move. Like, we just got to stay shut down to save lives. I just don't see it happening. I think everybody's going to be just done with this mentally, and they're going to have to get back at it. So we will pay a little bit of a heavier cost at the end, but in kind of just a predictive, selfish maybe motive, I'm saying that I really do think we're going to be fine with potentially some shows in July, and then August and beyond. I think we'll be pretty safe betting on clients being ready.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to talk about the potential myth of this recurring multiple times. And a lot of people have, well, I got a few messages about this. People said, how do we get rid of this if you can recatch it? And they're not quite certain that you can actually do that. And just like a lot of, standard viruses you've had in your past, you develop immunity for those, and but you only develop an immunity for a certain amount of time. So whether it's 5 years or 8 years, hopefully we have a vaccine by the next wave of this that we get hit by. So, whether that be 5 or 10 years down the road, maybe this is something we always have to deal with every couple years if they don't find a vaccine. But I think this is a great trial run to say, hey, shut everything down like immediately. So the sooner we contain it, the sooner we can come out of this.
Yeah, what you just said there, in China, there have been some cases where people who have been tested positive and then they recatch it. And there's just not a lot of conclusive data on whether that's just a bad test the first time or the second time. Were these people, because even just administratively, we know tests get messed up sometimes. You get the wrong number, the wrong name with the wrong paperwork. So I'm not ready to say that that's possible or not possible, but it's such a small amount that it looks like there is antibody protection. And then, like you said, we get the seasonal flu vaccines. I've been getting a seasonal flu vaccine for more than 15 years. And as somebody who used to get a pretty bad case of the flu every year, I've not had it at all since I've been, getting the vaccine. And every year, those are different vaccines because they know what strain, the seasonal flu is a coronavirus pathogen. And so, will this be part of that? Of the next flu vaccine? Will this be added to that? I'm not sure, but it sounds like it logically could. We know the Spanish flu that killed up to 100 million people in 1918, that was with us for more than 50 years. It wasn't until the 1950s or early 60s that we saw the last case of that, but it became less and less potent because as microbes typically evolve, it does not help them to have a host that dies instantly. They survive better if their hosts live longer to transmit for longer periods of time to more people. So the good thing is most viruses like this, at least in the coronavirus family, do tend to mutate into less viral forms. So yeah, it's going to be around, more than just this season, but with herd immunity, with potential vaccines, and with the natural mutation trend downward, I don't think we're going to be worried about this next year. This is going to end up killing several million people worldwide. And I think if it comes back next year, if it does indeed even turn out to be seasonal in form, it's just probably not even going to hit the radar because we already know that 15, 20, 25,000 people just in our country alone die of the seasonal flu. So I think it'll be an afternote.
Yeah, absolutely. This will definitely go down in history, though, as definitely a big pandemic.
Oh, it was massive. I mean, the thing is, if we had treated this like they did in 1918, if we didn't have the medical technology we did, if we didn't immediately shut down travel, those kind of things, this could have absolutely killed another 50 to 100 million people. It was exactly like that. Matter of fact, I would say, in terms of the rate of lethality, when all of the data comes out when this is finished, it will be shown to be probably close to exactly the same as the Spanish flu, which, as some people have pointed out recently, is an interesting label because it started in Kansas in our country. But in World War I, the free press that everybody paid attention to was in Spain. They were the only ones that were pumping out information about the flu, so it became known as the Spanish flu. But these things can come up anywhere. I mean, pathogens are equal opportunity germs. They just want a host that's allows them to survive and transmit.
Absolutely.
So some of the things, Adam, that we talked about in terms of clients who need to adjust. I have a client that immediately comes to mind that was ready for contests in March. She was one of those people that I'm ready to go, and 5 days notice her show gets canceled. So all of a sudden we go from March to, well, I don't know, maybe April or May. Let's keep one eye on that, but maybe not. And now, of course, we're looking at shows in July getting canceled. She's a pro who was going to go to that show in New York you mentioned. And, now that's off the books. And so all of a sudden it's August. And we had this conversation, is this worth extending? Is it time to just pack it in and have an off season? Or do we just keep kind of following the rolling calendar? And I will say for her, as one particular case study, she's done such a good job of going through that metabolic building with food intake. Her carbohydrates right now are approaching a level that are twice what they were 6 weeks ago, and yet her body weight is still the same. If anything, she's even just a little bit leaner. So we even instituted another increase this week. And as we get her food levels up near maintenance or even above, training's going to be great. Hunger's probably going to go away. And even though there is a danger of staying too lean for too long, if you manage it appropriately, it could still be a very successful contest season with an interesting amount of lessons learned. A lot of people don't stay this lean and this disciplined for this length of time. And so I'm completely leaving it up to her, and we have to analyze and assess every week, how she's feeling, how she's looking, what can we tell from the body's physiological response. But, in my mind, Adam, it is still case to case, and I'm just having to work with every single client and go through this process with them to decide what their next move should be.
Absolutely. I have a client two clients in similar situations. Both IFBB pros were supposed to compete in March, and they are completely different in mentality. The one, I think she will go, even if shows got delayed till October, she would stay on the money that long. The other one has about a good 16 weeks in her, and that's it. And actually, yesterday we just had a phone call and said, let's reverse and let's kind of start this over again eventually, because she's already about 10 weeks in. And I said, I just know psychologically we're not going to make it. So we said, let's go ahead and move back up. And then we'll probably bump back down again after we have some more light at the end of the tunnel. But my other client, she's been ready. We've been upping food. She still looks fantastic. Kind of the same as your client. And, if they unleash shows next week, which they won't, she would be able to dip down and be ready very quickly. But, the nice thing is she's getting to a point where we've moved food up so much, like psychologically, this does not seem very draining to her. So it's actually a really nice harmony where we're at right now. So I think she can hang here for a while. And, we might start putting a little bit of body fat on these next couple weeks, just since these dates are looking further away now, and then just swoop right in afterwards.
Yeah. A final group that I would address is the people who were planning on fall shows to begin with. And I've got a lot of clients who have the optimism that those shows are going to be there, and they are just getting into, pre-contest dieting and prep with the full assumption that, it's game on. And yet I had another client who brought this up. He said, I don't know, are they really going to be on? Like what if I start this whole process, leave the off season, and then my contest in September or October gets canceled for whatever reason, just because of kind of the trailing effect of this, or the complete consolidation of some shows. And so he's taken a wait and see attitude as well, where it's like, I'm gonna kind of edge that direction. I'm gonna stay within striking distance, but I need to see that at least some shows are happening before I go all in. And it's a unique position for some of these people who have not even started the diving process, or they should be just starting for the fall shows, for them to still be a little, tepid in their response to, whether they should really commit fully.
Yeah, I've had a few fall clients kind of act as if that could possibly happen. And it's difficult because you don't want to spread false hope by any means, because the truth is we don't really know. I feel very optimistic about the fall, though, and that's what I have relayed to a lot of my clients. And I think that it'll happen. And I'm just, I think the biggest thing is getting them to digest. They still might not have a gym for that first 2 months of their prep right now.
Adam, I want to end on this. I'm gonna circle back to our initial conversation about just the humanness of this situation. And Tyler Mayer, who is a diet doc family member, and was also my co-founder in the National Academy of Metabolic Science and all that. He's busy down in Phoenix, Arizona, running his business, and he's got clients. He does a lot of work in his community, as well as coaching clients around the world. And yet, as a radiology tech, that was his background before getting into coaching. He worked in a hospital setting, and they recently called him and said, "Man, we need all hands on deck. Would it be possible to pay you to come back into the hospital?" And he's been working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, back at the hospital, just helping his community. And now they're asking him, gosh, would you be willing to travel to California or Michigan, where other hot spots are breaking out? And I just last night, when I was reading in bed, I saw that a company, I think it's named Biosphere, finally came out with an antibody test where it's going to be available to physicians, where they can test people to see if you had the coronavirus. And I've talked about the fact that I'm 99% sure I had the virus when I was out in California, brought it back here. And I'm thinking about doing the same thing. If my physician has access to one of those tests, and I can show that I've already had it, I may, as a former physical therapist, who also worked in the hospital setting, and I'm well-trained in sterile field and all of that, I may be looking at going and volunteering somewhere to do some work like that could be in New York City, that kind of thing. But I want people to understand that we've had 4,000 deaths in our country right now. We've already run out of ICU beds. We've run out of even morgue capacity. They're throwing bodies in refrigerated trucks behind hospitals. They've completely run out of all protective personal gear. And this is with 4,000 deaths in the last month. We're going to see 100,000 in the next month. Imagine what that's going to do to some of those communities in those hospital settings. Even trickling down to the people who just need a surgery, like you may have an issue, or you need to see the doctor. You need an emergency appendectomy or something like that. And this is the state that our entire healthcare system is going to be in. This was why people like me were saying back in February, take this seriously. And half our country was still making light of it and mocking it and calling it, oh, it's just the flu, quit being such an alarmist. Here we are, we're living it, and we've even mitigated it to some degree, but it's still going to be that hard over the next month to maybe 2 months. So even as we're sitting here contemplating contests, and I want to make sure that people are prepared for their scenarios for contest prep, you may actually look around, if you've got the time, where you can contribute and help your community, help other people, because the faster we all get on this, the more hands we have on a shovel, the farther we can dig. I think that's going to be helpful for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that that's a good way to end this. And just there's always some kind of help you can do. One of my clients, she just signed up for DoorDash. So she's delivering groceries to people who can't go to the store. And she said it's like so rewarding to do that right now.
Yeah, I know another one of our Diet Doc program owners, coaches, who said, "Look, I used to work in this place, and they asked if I could come in, and I'm actually taking shifts to help out this company. It's kind of a food supplement distribution company." And she's like, "Man, I mean, why would I say no to helping out people? Here we are all stuck at home, and I'm going to go chip in where I can." So we'll leave it there, Adam. Thanks so much. This is a pretty eclectic Contest Prep University episode. We don't usually just ramble on with this kind of update scenario, but it's important. I mean, right now, as you and I discussed off camera, I just couldn't fathom going through our normal routine of contest prep information when everybody in our country is facing this right now. So if it's all right with you guys, and please feel free to comment, if you'd like us to keep going through some updates like this as we get it. I know Adam is well tied to the NPC and IFBB, and I've got a good ear to some of the natural organizations, but we will definitely keep information flowing one way or the other. But definitely drop us a comment and tell us what you'd like to see from us most as we transition through the next few weeks here. So thanks again, Adam, and we will catch you guys next time in Contest Prep University.